Hey tribe, Shia here from Florida. And I had a friend ask me, how are you defining the divine masculine? It's like, how do you define that, Shia? Because I want to just make sure I understand it. And he admitted he looked it up and Googled it because he wasn't totally sure if that meant something specific or was how that worked. And it made me realize, wow, some of these terms I use, in my circles are so common, but it's not always common to the mainstream person out there who's not in those circles and is not in this necessarily in the same field of love and relationships and sexuality. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, let me define what I mean by that. And keep in mind, this is what I mean by it. And I am a tantrika where, uh, I am in this field. But, we all sometimes have our own definitions of things, and we have to check in with each other and make sure we're referring to the same definition, because they sometimes vary from person to person based on your experience. So anyway, I kind of had fun with it, and I noticed I had several rounds of information around what I mean by divine masculine, because those terms are tossed around out there, and not everybody maybe knows what that means exactly, because we talk about divine feminine and divine masculine, and I think that refers to almost that ideal version of the feminine or the masculine coming through us as we ascend and evolve, and almost like where our higher selves are coming through and living through us. It's appealing to that higher self of you, basically. And I said, well, what a divine masculine means to me, of course, in that traditional sense, is where he's got, it's sort of like that ideal masculine archetype where he's protecting and providing and has that code of integrity and accountability, and all these different characteristics that make up an ideal man, I suppose. And I was sort of breaking down, like what that looks like in the practical day to day, because so many women like myself who are self supporting, who are running our own businesses, running our own households without the help of anyone else. In my case, I was sharing with him that I don't have a family to back me up. I'm just independent, sovereign. I don't have extended family. I don't have a partner at this point in time. I just moved to Florida, and so that will come about. Um, and and so it especially falls, even because I guess kind of heavier on me in a sense, to where it all starts and ends with me. If I don't do it, it doesn't get done. And a little bit vulnerable perhaps to not have more of a support system with me. And that's, I guess, kind of what I signed up for in this particular lifetime, to be that independent and strong and self-sufficient, so to speak. And so I was saying, for me, and a lot of women will relate to this, because if you're a boss, boss babe, or whatever you want to call it, where you are running your own show and doing a lot of it yourself without the natural help of a partner or a family or business partners even, or whatever, then you're kind of like a one person show in a sense, where I know those of us women, which, we might be like the alpha women, right? Alpha females who are doing it well. And I'm very pleased that I do that well. Um, but that means that I personally, and I guess the reason why I'm sharing this too for you men, is that often these are the kind of women you're wanting in your life. They're very high functioning, very responsible. In my case, I can say I'm very balanced with my masculine and feminine inside, because there needs to be a balance between the two, whether you're male or female. There is an integration that needs to happen between your inner masculine and feminine. And it is a little bit of it takes a little bit of inner work to get them integrated into an equal, balanced way. I know that firsthand, having to do that, which is quite a story in and of itself, which I've shared in other videos. But often these are the kind of women that you might want to pursue, in the sense that the attractiveness of how responsible they are, how capable they are, how skilled or talented, high functioning, successful, whatever words you want to apply to it. So, in order to get our attention, and then I'll just speak for myself as one of them, I was explaining to him how, I really value when a man is strong enough to be in his masculine, so that I can finally shift into my feminine. Because a woman like me is having to be in my masculine more than I would really prefer, because it is all on me to do everything around my house, around concerning my business, etc. So I am so ready that, like, when I go on a date with a man, I really want him to kind of take charge and make decisions, deciding where we're going. And of course, he runs it by me, like, oh, what kind of food would you like? Or is there a certain this or that, that's fine. But that he's actually doing the legwork. He's maybe designing the date, knowing what he knows about me. He's picking the place, making the reservation, picking me up and driving us there, etc. Because that allows me to shift into my feminine, which feels so good for me to do that after I am all day in my masculine doing business and getting things done. So I think that's a good thing for guys to know, because those of us who are operating that way, it's just really nice when someone else takes the wheel and has the leadership abilities and, the competency to kind of take that masculine role of being the one who's taking care of those details, so that we finally can take a break from being in charge and leading, and can trust him to sort of create that container where we can, as women, can relax and receive for a change, and kind of rebuild our storehouse and have some balance. So this is where I was sharing with him how much I really appreciate that, because that's such, like, it's therapeutic for me. And so, like, a fantasy version of that is like if a man says, hey, I'm going to take us on a trip, and he decides all the details and gets it all lined up. Or I'm going to take us on this, we're going to go do this on Friday. And, it maybe involves several things. It can be anything. Like, I just recently had a guy friend come in and help me set up my bed, because, it's this big, bulky, heavy furniture type stuff, and we needed to move it around with the different rooms set up and, unpackage it and all that. And I just needed another set of hands. And so I just so appreciated that assistance, and anything that requires some kind of a man skill, and it might be something where, his muscles come in play there, where they're needed. And so, yeah, I was just sort of listing to him the different ways that could show up, in a dating sense, and beyond, even to creating a whole trip. It might be that basically he's taking charge and, like, taking care of certain things maybe that I normally would, but he's taking that now. So if we were partnered, for instance, instead of me doing everything all the time like I am now, he actually takes on certain things, like, I guess in a daily household that might look like the man taking out the trash, or it might mean that he is fixing something in the house, or maybe he's the one that, manages the retirement accounts to make sure they're in order and set up the way we're wanting them to, etc. Or maybe he has techie skills, computer skills, whatever skill sets, right? And so, anyway, that's what I think of when I think of the divine masculine, because the opposite end of the divine masculine is what I've also experienced, which is sometimes at the like lower side or shadow side is where a man sometimes to me can feel like a high maintenance teenager that's in a man's body. And then I feel like I have to go into like mother mode and leader mode, and it's quite exhausting. And then I have that moment where I'm like, what's in this for me? Like I feel like I'm making his life better, but I'm not really getting anything out of this. It's just draining me. And so I guess if I were to define the divine masculine in its most simplest form, it's a man who makes my life better in some way. He's offering to take on something that I normally would have to do, or he's adding to my life of something that I normally wouldn't get access to or wouldn't be able to do without him, or he's willing to maybe pay for something that I normally wouldn't give myself, or he's introducing me to, certain people or experiences that I otherwise would not just have that available to me. So that's what I mean by making my life better as a woman. And men can do that by offering assistance in any number of ways. Acts of service can go a long way in connecting with a woman, and compliments, that are genuine, and affection that's non-sexual, so that there's trust that's built there. And so, anyway, that is what I wanted to share today around at least some of the ways that the divine masculine can be defined. And I'm so grateful there's some great examples out there of men online, like on YouTube. There's some great ones that I love listening to, like Dave Asprey, and a lot of these podcasts that certain men, a lot of their names aren't coming to me at the moment, but I know I listen to their channels regularly. And they do very spiritual things too, which is impressive to me, because I love a man who's got his spirituality, flowing. And so there's quite a few of those. Amrit is one online, and I'm trying to think of some of the others. I could see their faces, but I haven't necessarily memorized their names yet, I guess. But there's some good examples anyway, because a lot of times I think you men, you're like, well, what does that look like? Like, who's an example of this, to kind of give us something to go off of, right? So anyway, that's why I wanted to define it, so that you guys even know what that looks like. Because sometimes you're just like, I'm not sure what you guys want. If you want me to be more feminine and caring and emotional, or, then there's the alpha male side of things. And of course, it needs to be a combination of both, because that is the integrated version of like male and female within. And then when you've got that in place on the outside, that's when it's going to show up as a partner who's also balanced in their masculine and feminine.